John Hook's Newsmaker starts now.
Thanks for joining us for Newsmaker. Tonight, a star-studded affair. Greg Schulte, longtime voice of the Arizona Diamondbacks, who retired after the World Series run last year, he will join me in the second half hour on the program. People call him the Governor, but we're going to begin with the real Governor, the 22nd governor of the great state of Arizona, Jan Brewer, who served from 2009 to 2015. Governor, great to see you.
Great to be on with you, John.
It's been a while. I've just got to start with, where is the Republican Party right now in Arizona? I see that you've endorsed a few what they would call non-MAGA candidates. Stephen Richer is one of them, the county recorder. You've kind of weighed in on county candidates, but not in the big races. What is going on? What message are you trying to send?
Well, I don't know if I'm trying to send a message. What I'm trying to do is to find candidates out there that I think that will serve our state good and do their job and play by the rules and have integrity. And so I was asked to endorse people, and I know them, and I feel that they will serve us well. So I wanted to endorse them and let the people know that that's who I'm backing and who I'm going to work for and who I'm going to vote for.
So, and by the way, as we're doing this interview on Thursday, former Governor Ducey, who replaced you after you termed out, he also endorsed Stephen Richer on this day.
Yes.
So there is some coalescing going on right now with candidates who are not Trump-backed candidates.
Well, it's unfortunate, I think, in the state of Arizona. I've always been a Republican, a conservative Republican. I ran as a Republican. I've served on all levels of government. But I think we elect Republicans. Bottom line is that we have so many little fractions of Republicans out there. Pretty soon we've divided our party. So I'm looking at the totality of all the people that are running, and I'm picking what I believe are the best candidates to serve us.
Okay, let's take it to the next big race. U.S.
Okay.
Senate primary, Mark Lamb, Kari Lake. Are you going to weigh in on that one? And if so, why? And if not, why?
Well, I have been asked to weigh in on that particular race. It's very important to the state of Arizona. In fact, I was on a phone call this morning regarding that issue, and I have only met Sheriff Lamb twice, and I'm very impressed with him. I know Kari Lake. We were somewhat knowledgeable of each other and friends for a long time, but I am very concerned about what direction she was going. I think she's trying to do a reverse on it, but I don't know if that's going to happen or not. There's a lot of people that are unhappy with her. They don't think that she is a truth teller and that she has changed her opinion on certain things. She goes to different rallies. She says different things to different audiences. So it's very, very difficult. But the bottom line is whoever we elect, and we have got to be sure that they beat the Democrat come November. And right now, the polling is showing that Kari is way down in all the different brackets. So it's a difficult situation. Sheriff Lamb is a very qualified candidate, very personable, really cares about the state of Arizona, has a lovely family, and he is, of course, out there working and raising money. So we're just all going to have to sit back and see.
This is interesting because Donald Trump is polling well in Arizona right now. I know it's early.
Yes.
But usually that helps the down ballot Republicans in a situation like this. But it's not helping Kari Lake so far. And everybody described Kari Lake as Donald Trump in heels, that she couldn't be more closely aligned to him. So what do you think is a disconnect?
I just think that Donald Trump wears his personality differently than anybody else, and he gets away with a lot of things that other people aren't going to get away with. He has a way of smoozing. Maybe he has had a longer lifetime to do that in. But I know Donald Trump well. You know, John, I worked hard for him in 2016. I traveled with him, went to every debate in the country, traveled all over the country, flew on the plane, and thought that he would serve us well.
And you supported him in 2020 as well.
Well, I voted for him. I didn't work real hard, but I voted for him.
Okay.
Yes. And, but I think that the people that support Donald Trump, they like Donald Trump, and then they pick their other candidates separately. That's just my opinion.
Do you think, Governor, do you
his
think...
coattails, they don't fly on his coattails so well.
What do you make of all that's going on in this case in New York, what Republicans describe as lawfare against Donald Trump, to try to minimize him, to try to undercut him, try to get him off the playing field, try to dust him up, maybe put him in prison? What do you make of that, and do you think, what kind of effect do you think that might have on the race going forward?
Well, according to the polls and everything that you read, it hasn't hurt him at all. He just uses the courtroom as a campaign rally, going in and coming out. So we'll see. I don't know all the details. I wish that we could have watched it, from morning to night, but we had to kind of get it in pieces and somebody explaining to us exactly what's going on, and artist drawings. You don't get that same kind of vibe that you normally would get
Right.
with watching a trial and the jury. So it'll be very, very interesting. But the polls all show that it's not going to hurt him one way or the other.
Let me ask you about this Secure Border Act passed by the Arizona Senate. It's going to go to the House next week, and I expect it will pass there. Voters could get a say on this, turning Arizona very much like Texas, that Arizona law enforcement could enforce border law. It would make it a state crime to cross illegally across the border if it's not at a recognized port of entry. This reminds me a lot of the SB 1070 battle that we had years ago. You signed that into law in 2010. What do you think that may do to the electorate? What's your take on it?
Well, I think that we all know that that's the number one issue is is the security of the border. We just feel overwhelmed with the amount of people that are coming across and that come in the good and the bad. The bottom line is we're a country and it needs to be secured. Now, I'm not real familiar with the law that they have written. I have heard enough about it on the news, and I've read a little bit about it that I know that they're trying to attempt to do the right thing. However, I don't know if we're going to be able to afford to do what is in that bill.
That's exactly my next question, because the estimate is it could be $325 million a year to try to shore up law enforcement to handle this, and jails and prisons. It takes a lot. I think Texas is in for about $11 billion. That was the number I saw. That's just an ungodly amount of money. So you do have to make choices.
And it is the federal government's job to take care of it. Unfortunately, I believe we have a Democrat president, and he, again, just like President Obama, they don't want to do anything. They don't want to do anything. They want those people coming across our border. They think it's a good thing.
And why do you think that is?
They become voters. We know that. We all know that.
Okay, you believe it's because they believe it's a future vote.
Yep.
That's simple. That's simple.
I do.
Boy, that is it's almost diabolical.
Well, it's unfortunate, it's just so wrong. It's just so wrong, but we'll see. We'll see if it passes after everybody understands it, and if the state of Arizona can afford to do with it what they think they can.
You said
evidently the people that are putting it on the ballot is coming out of the legislature. They know what the budget is. I've had a budget.
No, that's right. And
I know how it works.
Yeah, and in the state constitution, if you do pass a voter initiative, you have to fund it. There has to be a funding mechanism. And I don't see where one is right now. Everybody's saying, oh yeah, we'll pay for it, we'll find a way. At any rate, you did say that you thought the border was the number one issue in Arizona. You think that trumps the economy right now?
I do. They can be very close. I mean, I've seen a lot of polls, it moves up and down, or you talk to people, the people on the street. But I think that the border security is the number one issue. When I was governor and I was fought so hard with the Obama administration on trying to get it secure, it was a big deal then. And they kept telling me it was going to go away. It was going to go away. It was going to go away. Nobody would listen. We couldn't afford what we had to do, absolutely had to do. And they wouldn't give us our SCAP dollars. It was terrible. So if this thing passes, it's going to be a real disaster. But I don't believe that people realize how much it's going to cost if we're able to do that, and if they want to pay for it. I don't know if the public wants to pay that price, because they're going to have to raise something somewhere to do it. How
big of a deal do you think the abortion issue will be? That will also be on the ballot in November. How much of a motivator is that to bring out women voters, maybe Democrats who are maybe not excited about Joe Biden? Do you think that moves the needle a lot?
Yeah. Yes, I do. I think abortion is another one of those big issues, and the Democrats are really, really pushing it. And they're trying to key in, I believe, on the younger voters. They're trying to get, movie stars and people to get involved in the Democrat Party. They want abortion on demand, and it's simply, they use it for birth control. That's what they want. They want it for birth control. They don't want it for the reasons that the majority of us, can understand that we might need abortion, for rape and incest and to save the life of a mother, those kinds of things. But it is a big, big issue out there.
Governor, I got to ask you too about the indictment of the 11 so-called fake electors in Arizona. Mm-hmm. They've been indicted, claiming that they were trying to do a back-end run to call it for Donald Trump in Arizona. I think it was a fool's errand. I don't think it ever would have worked. I don't think Congress would have recognized these people. But they got talked into it. Somebody talked them into it. I don't know who. I have my ideas. What do you make of that whole thing?
Well, I was the chief election officer in the state of Arizona for 6 years.
Yes.
And I understand how elections are run, and I understand how the president gets elected and all those kind of little details. I think the majority of those people that were involved knew exactly what they were doing. I think they knew that it was kind of not the right thing to do, but they did it anyway, thinking that at least they get some name recognition. I think there was pressure put on them, but it was wrong. It was absolutely wrong. A lot of people don't agree with me on that. They think that some of them didn't know what they were doing. Well, most of them were pretty intelligent as far as I'm concerned. And we already had our electors, and so now they're nominating themselves to be new electors. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's made politics just so absolutely crazy. But it will go to court, and the court and the jury will decide.
One more. If you were on the 9th floor right now, would you try to tackle this homeless issue, and what would you do?
Well, I tackled it at the Board of Supervisors. I'm the one that established the CASA shelter downtown and, brought it all together so that we could have all the services and everything together. And at the time, it was really, really horrible. I got the county to donate the money, the land, and worked very hard and diligently with St. Vincent de Paul. And it was something that I wore with honor that we were able to do. But the population has just grown and grown and grown. I don't know what they're going to do. The economy's got to turn around. People making, $25 an hour can't afford to rent a place. They can't afford to work and live. It's a never-ending circle. It's terrible.
Would you call a special session to try to get everybody together and deal with it, or do you think throwing money at it?
I think I would call a special session. I was always pretty good at that, calling special session and calling them back home to do their job. And let's get it done. Let's get together and let's work collectively together. We can, this is something that's affecting Democrats and Republicans.
That's right, and we don't hear a lot of that right now. Everybody's in their own camp. Governor Jan Brewer, 22nd governor of the great state of Arizona. Thank you very much, Governor. Coming up next, though, 26 years, the voice of the Arizona Diamondbacks. We're going to catch up with legendary play-by-play guy Greg Schulte and see how retirement is treating him. Coming up next on Newsmaker. Few people in life get to live their dream. My next guest has. From Arizona Diamondbacks' inaugural game in 1998, Greg Schulte was a play-by-play voice of the team for 26 years, nearly 4,000 games. Schulte was a soundtrack for some of the Valley's most memorable baseball moments. Greg Schulte, the governor, joins me on Newsmaker now. We just spoke to Jan Brewer, the governor, in the early part of the program, so two governors in one night. Greg, great to see you. I hope retirement's treating you well. Is it?
It is. I'm enjoying it. The one thing I have noticed, John, with retirement, I never know what day of the week it is. I really mean that. I'll ask Nancy. I said, is today Thursday? And she says, no, it's Sunday. And I'm serious because I just can't remember what day it is. Because every day you're retired.
Can you listen to a game and not put yourself in that booth?
A little bit. I still kind of call them in my head. Broadcast ball games.
Yep.
There haven't been a lot to broadcast about this year, though, so far. So, I've been doing it for a long time. I did minor league baseball. I did college baseball, Arizona State. When I first moved out to Phoenix, baseball has always been my one love. I think in my head as a kid, growing up in Northwest Illinois. I'd listen to Cardinals baseball, and whenever a TV game would come on, I'd mute the TV and I'd do the game myself. A lot of
You'd
times,
mute Jack Buck.
I did Jack Buck, I did Harry Carey.
Oh my goodness.
I was in a fortunate area actually in Illinois. We were along the Mississippi River. We'd get Cardinals games, we could pick up Cubs games in Chicago, White Sox games in Milwaukee Braves, Minnesota Twins. On a good skip, we could get Cincinnati Reds. So I got a lot of baseball that I got to listen
Wow.
to.
You know, I think you and I, believe it or not, I shared this same passion. I wanted to be a hockey play-by-play guy, believe it or not. And from a very young age was calling stickball, street hockey, backyard football, calling the game as we're playing it and running out of air. I suspect you had the exact same experience.
I did, and I told my parents we were on our way back from a trip. We'd gone down to Sportsman's Park in St. Louis. I think my mom and dad tell me I was 8 years old, so that would have been about 1959. And we'd watch the Cardinals play in a series that weekend. And I told them in the car going back, I said, I want to be I want to be Harry Carey or Jack Buck when I grow up. I like to play baseball. I think I learned at an early age I probably wasn't going to get a chance. So few do over the history of the game. You really have to be good. I mean, really good. And, you know, I played high school, played a little bit in college, played the Babe Ruth, Stan Musial leagues, that kind of stuff. But I kind of turned my attention to the broadcast portion of it.
And you ended up doing it with the Diamondbacks. What was the first job, Greg? What was your first play-by-play job?
First play-by-play job was actually I was working radio in Rock Island, Illinois, which is a part of the Quad Cities where I grew up. And I got an opportunity to broadcast a high school basketball game. I don't even remember who the teams were. I think it was Rock Island Audubon, where I went to school, the parochial school there in the Quad Cities. And I believe they played United Township High School, where my wife, Nancy, went to high school. And, you know, I made a lot of mistakes, but learned and listened to the tape afterwards, sat down with some people, and they kind of critiqued me and got a chance to do some more. I did softball tournaments, did football, did college basketball for Augustana College back there in the Quad Cities, and then proceeded to do University of Iowa basketball when Lute Olson was the head coach for the Hawkeyes there for a couple of years. And I always teased Lute when he came out to Arizona. I beat him by about, I think Luke came out in '84 and I came out in '79.
That's right.
But I was smarter than him getting out here earlier.
I mean, I got here in '78 to go to ASU, and you were on KTAR a year later, and you were a fixture. You were doing all kinds of stuff, and that station's such a powerhouse. Tell me about Jerry Colangelo's influence in your life, because when the franchise was awarded, you were named the play-by-play guy almost right out of the gate. And then you had 3 years to kind of cool your heels until the first game. I'm wondering what you did in that 3 years to prepare, or did you, to try to prepare to get going as the main guy when they kicked it off in '98?
Well, those 3 years seem like an eternity, to be honest, John. But if we go back, Jerry was, of course, running the Suns at that time. And then I was doing actually Arizona State sports with Tom Dillon.
Right.
Tom and I would do ASU football, baseball, and basketball. When basketball went into the baseball season, Tom would stay with basketball. I got a lot of opportunities to do a lot of baseball at that time. But Jerry was running the Suns. I was working Suns games with Al McCoy, producing, directing, doing a halftime show, post-game show. Eventually did a little fill-in work for Al when he missed a game here or two. But Al was the first person that I really met. Al McCoy and George Allen were the two biggest influencers for me when I came out to Phoenix. Came to know Jerry very well. It was kind of a mom and pop shop, the Suns, back in those early days.
Yes.
'79 was still rather early. But, you know, we became very good friends and work friends over the course of the years. He knew my love for baseball. And when the Diamondbacks were awarded a franchise along with Tampa Bay in Florida, I went to Jerry and I spoke to Jerry. Al McCoy went to bat for me. Joe Gilmartin, the late Joe Gilmartin, went to bat for me from the Phoenix Gazette, Arizona Republic, saying, you know, you need a local guy. Don't know what you want to do, you know, on radio or TV, but I think you need a local guy. They both told Jerry that. Jerry obviously agreed. And Jerry came in one day. I think he was to do the Preston Westmoreland show. And he happened to spot me in the hallway and he called me back. He says, "Come here." He said, "I just want to let you know that we're moving ahead with this. I want you to do Diamondbacks baseball. We're going to bring in Tom Brenneman and Bob Brunley from the Chicago Cubs. They are going to start games on TV. You're going to start games on radio. Don't know who your analyst is going to be yet, but you'll go over and do the middle three on TV. Tom will come over and do the middle three on radio." So that's how we proceeded from there.
Unbelievable.
And he told me to keep it quiet, which I did, but it was Jerry the one who leaked things out about they said, "We want to spread things out with news over the course of the next, 6, 7, 8 months," as we were just kind of starting up. And he said, "I want you to be quiet about this. You can't tell anybody." I didn't. Told my wife, obviously. That was the extent of it. But Jerry started to leak it out, and it came out, and they had to release it earlier.
It's just, to be able to really live your dream. And I fast forward just a few years after the inaugural season. Yeah. There you are calling Game 7, and Gonzo's at the plate, and they're about to maybe undo the vaunted Yankees. What was going through your mind when you made that call? You have to know leading up to it, this could happen, good or bad.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I got the call right.
Yeah.
On a kid or whatever happened. It was a bases loaded situation. There was one out. And I'll tell you one thing I never thought of. I just had that much confidence in the team. Torrey moved the infield in. I never once dreamed of Gonzo hitting into a double play, which would have ended the inning, and we'd have gone to the 10th inning in a tie ball game. But that never crossed my mind. And, Gonzo ended up getting a little blooper over Jeter's head, which barely landed on the outfield grass.
Yep.
And the excitement just came out. Diamondbacks won it. Gonzo's a hero. What was it? Honk your horn, stomp your feet, celebrate in Arizona.
Yeah.
And the Diamondbacks have won the World Series. But just to watch everything going on in the field as that happened, and for me to be on the call, I was a very fortunate person. And, I couldn't have been more grateful.
If you had one guy to call a game, let's say it's the biggest game we can come up with, Game 7 of a World Series, and maybe it changes from sport to sport, but who would you put in that booth to say, I want this guy to call this event? It's going to be the biggest sporting event ever.
Well, I think Vince Scully is the greatest broadcaster of all time.
Wow.
In any sport, I really do. The way he could paint a picture, is, historic knowledge of everything, his recall, everything that he had done. And if it doesn't matter, football, baseball, basketball, whatever, I think Vin would be the guy.
What would you give advice to a young person coming up wanting to do what you did so masterfully for all these years? What would you tell them?
Well, I think I tell them to try and do it the way I did it, and that's learn the business. I started at a radio TV combo, and I learned, from the bottom up. I learned how to splice tape, put it together on a reel, just learn everything different. My first time on air was a 15-minute news slot on an AM FM station back in the Quad Cities. And we did about 10 minutes of news, 3 minutes of sports. And if you can believe this or not, we closed with the last couple of minutes with weather and obituaries.
I thought you were going to say a farm report. That's usually what we did.
We did farm reports in the afternoon, but at nights.
Unbelievable.
They would close with obituaries from the local funeral homes.
Greg, there are going to be people watching the program tonight who are going to just hang in there because they like hearing your voice. It's great to see you, my friend. Can we leave with your call? Let's just say it's bottom of the ninth and it's a deep shot. Can you give me your home run call?
Warning track wall, you can touch them all. Diamondbacks win. Let's hope they win some games.
Yes. Greg Schulte, great to see you and continued success. I hope you're enjoying yourself, and it would be great to hear you from time to time in the booth.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. I've always enjoyed our friendship.
Thank you. Good to see you, Greg. Greg Schulte. We're back in a minute on Newsmaker. Well, that was quite a newsmaker. Two governors, Jan Brewer and Greg Schulte. Great to see them both, and thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week on Newsmaker.